We have such a wonderful moral, ethical code, don't we, in this country? You know, there's Barack Obama, Saint Barack, who never got any protests when he came to this country.
There were protests in 2008.
Hardly any protests. Go and look at what happened when he came, right?
Obama, burn in hell! Obama, burn in hell! Obama, terrorist! Obama, terrorist! Obama, go to hell! Obama, go to hell!
We're here today to tell Barack Obama and his regime that the Muslims will be everywhere he ventures.
And yet Barack Obama deported 3 million illegal immigrants in 8 years, an all-time record by any American president, splitting up many families in the process. Barack Obama broke the all-time presidential record for dropping bombs in 1 year, his last year in office. His drone program has been widely castigated as bordering on obscene. We've just had President Erdogan of Turkey come here. Not a whimper of protest. We just had the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Barely anybody took to the street.
There are around 300 to 400 people here at this protest against the visit of the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
But today, protests erupted in London over his visit. At one point, police worried they might have to pause the march because of its massive size.
By 1996, Nelson Mandela was addressing Parliament, and politicians from all sides assembled to pay tribute. This was a star like no other, one who could inspire, move, and sprinkle political gold dust.
Why was Mandela in prison? The impression given is because he was black, because he was against apartheid, against discrimination, he is for freedom. The man's a prisoner of conscience, but actually Amnesty International never took his case because they said he was not a political prisoner. He had had a fair trial, he had a very restrained sentence for crimes that he pleaded guilty to. 156 acts of public violence and terrorism, actually. Car bombs, public shopping centres, limpet mine in a shop, bomb in a butchery, bomb in a post office. And these are some of the nice gifts from the Soviet Union, hand grenades to throw through people's windows.
Not a whimper of protest.
Oh, look, you absolutely have a right to protest, but here's the big problem that I've got. Look, you know, we've had President Xi of China.
But hidden amongst the frantically waving flags, barely visible from the gilt-edged royal carriage, human rights activists stood.
And something that I've never ever seen before, and it may be original in the annals of State Department British relations, the State Department has warned Americans in London to keep a low profile, to be conscious of their surroundings, lest they get caught up in protests that can turn violent. I don't ever remember an American State Department warning Americans in London to be careful about attitudes toward an American president. And yet we have that exact situation.
Now, we've even had Robert Mugabe come and visit London. Every tin pot dictator, every nutter, everybody who abuses human rights, everybody who runs their own slave labour camps, we're not worried about them.
I think a lot of the people in your country like what I stand for. They respect what I stand for.
And to those who don't,
I do stand for tough borders.
I'm going to come to that now, but to those who don't, what do you say to them?
I don't care.
The last major protest was when George W. Bush was president. Actually, this is a group of professional leftists who just like to agitate and enjoy going out on the protest. That's why they're not interested. That's why they're not interested. George W. Bush had a huge protest. Donald Trump is getting a huge protest. If a Democrat wins the White House next time, whatever he does, nobody will give it.
You have every right to go and protest the Democratic president. No one's going to stop you doing that.
They've got every right. But Susanna, my point is, where were they when far worse people came into this city?
We hold our friends and allies.
Why do we we hold our friends in? Why?
The link that we have with Saudi Arabia is historic. It is an important one, and it has saved the lives of potentially hundreds of people in this country.
We hold our friends and allies.
Why do we hold our friends and allies? Why? We just had the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Barely anybody took to the street.
Turkey is vital for our economy, vital for our security, and vital for our politics and our diplomacy.
We hold our friends and allies.
Why do we hold our friends and allies? Why?
Joining me now in the studio is John Nicholson, formerly a speechwriter for a US senator before serving as the SNP's culture, media and sports spokesperson.
He loves dictators.
Right. I mean, look, there's an argument to keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Alex Salmond's views in black and white on Vladimir Putin. Asked by former New Labour spin doctor Alistair Campbell if he admired the Russian president, the First Minister said certain aspects. He's restored a substantial part of Russian pride, and that must be a good thing.
What you do
and to no one
is
else.
be relentlessly anti-Trump and relentlessly pro somebody like Obama.
I'm not pro-Obama. I've been a critic of Obama. I'm a critic of the Democratic Party because I'm literally a communist.
We won because we were guided by our great leader and military genius, Marshal Stalin.
How heroic he comes across.
London is together here in London and around this country. Our message to our visitor is we are united in our hope for a world of justice, not division. We're united in our hope to end racism, misogyny. We're united in hope for all our diversity.
Donald Trump should grow up and recognise the American economy actually depends on migrant labour.
And what's so impressive about Cuba is the education and the health services. And I think the legacy of Castro will be that, but will also be this enormous figure on the world stage, the one who campaigned against apartheid and the one who brought a different language and a different set of values.
70,000 people have died in the Florida Straits trying to escape from that man.
Fidel Castro was a massive figure in the history of the whole planet ever since the revolution in 1959, and the stories of his heroism living in Mexico in exile, and then the boat, the Grandma to Cuba, and then the march to Havana, and then the revolution in 1959.
Chavez himself amassed a personal fortune of $2 billion while his own countrymen were, living in extreme poverty.
Chavez strode the world, spoke up for the Palestinians, spoke up for the poor around the world, and in inspiration to all of us fighting back against austerity and neoliberal economics in Europe, showed us there is a different and a better way of doing things. It's called socialism, it's called social justice, and it's something that Venezuela has made a big step towards.
That is utterly pathetic and an act of self-harm.
Okay.